Chapter 10.6, Translating Conic Sections. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to write equations of conic sections that have been translated and then identify translated conic sections. Okay, so let's get started. First, we're going to learn how to write the translated conic sections. So if you look, if we have a graph, basically we learned a long time ago parent functions, we can see how these ellipses to the right are the same but different. We just translated them. Okay, the graph at the right shows a hyperbola here, and we could easily rewrite the graph by translating it with the x and y values. Okay, our h and k's. So here's the equation of conic sections. I'm going to leave it up here on a little bit for the screen, but it's important you understand these in standard form of the equation. What do you notice? Every equation we have translation, it's going to be y minus k and x minus h. And remember, our hk either represents the center of an ellipse, a circle, or hyperbola, or the vertex of the parabola. So make sure you know this. This is important. Okay, so now let's just get into it. Writing the equation of a translated ellipse. So write the equation of an ellipse with the center of -3, -2, with a major axis length, and it's vertical, so major axis length of 8 and a minor axis length of 6. So what does all that mean? Well, it means the ellipse is 8 units long and 6 units wide. So 8 is tied in with the y-axis, and the 6 horizontal is tied in with the x-axis. So we know our a value is going to travel with y, and we know our b value is going to travel with x because our y is bigger. Alright, so our equation looks like this. X minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared. So let's find out how we can find our, b squared should go with x and a squared should go with y. Okay, how can we find our a squared value? Well, if the length of the ellipse is 8, and we know the a value represents from the center to the vertex, we know 8 equals 2a. So our a value is going to divide it by 2 is 4. Okay, that's how we found a. How do we find b? Well, the short axis is 6, and we know 2 times that must be the length of b, so our b value is 3. And anytime we're given a center, those values are h and k. So everything we need's been given to write the equation. So we're just going to plug it in. X minus -3 squared over our b value squared, 3 squared, plus y minus -2 squared over our a value, 4 squared, equals 1. So now we can simplify it. X plus 3 squared over 9 plus y plus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. So there we go. We've written the equation for an ellipse that has a center of -3, -2 with a vertical axis of 8 and a horizontal width of 6. Study that, make sure you know how to do that one. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Write an equation of an ellipse with the center of 1, -4. So here's what we know. Center, 1, -4. Horizontal major axis, so this is going to be our a value, and it's going to tie in with x. The length is 10, so a is going to be 10 over 2, which would be 5. Alright, and on the minor axis, it's going to be 4, so that's going to be our b value. Our b is going to be 4 over 2, so our b value is 2. Okay, so the equation would be x minus h squared over, x is tied with a this time, so a squared, plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. So now it's just plug and chug. So before we get started, a squared would be 25, b squared would be 4. So x minus h. So x minus 1, we got the h's value from our center, squared over a squared. A squared's 25, plus y minus k, well k is negative 4, so minus negative 4 squared over b squared, which would be 4, equals 1. So the answer is x minus 1 squared over 25 plus y plus 4 squared over 4. And that is the equation for the ellipse with the center at 1, negative 4, horizontal major axis of 10 and minor axis of 4. Alright. Now we can work on writing the equation of a translated hyperbola. Okay, let's make sure we remember something. The midpoint of segments x1, y1 and x2, y2 is the sum of the x's divided by 2 and the sum of the y's divided by 2. So it says write an equation of hyperbola, all right, with vertices of 0, 1 and 6, 1 and the foci at negative 1, 1 and 7, 1. So let's plot this a little bit so we can figure this thing out. So we got a graph. So the vertices for this are at 0, 1, put an orange dot there, and 6, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Alright, the foci are at negative 1, 1 and 7, 1. So I'll label that here. The foci negative 1, 1. The foci 7, 1. Okay, so that's what we know. So let's look at the center real quick. The center is going to be the midpoint of the two vertices. So 0 plus 6 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. So the center is going to be 3, 1, and that matters. So 1, 2, 3, 0, boom. So that's the center, 3, 1. Now, let's look at what else do we need to know. We know our A value is from the center to the vertex. I'm going to do that in blue. So that's 3. Our C value is from the center to the foci. So that's 3 plus 1, so that's 4. So my A value was 3. My C value from the foci to the center is 4. Okay, so we got to find our B value. You remember C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So C squared minus A squared is going to equal my B squared value. So C is 4, so C squared is 16. A is 3, A squared is 9, equals B squared. So 16 minus 9 is 7. So my B squared value is 7. My B value is the square root of 7. Okay, and if you remember for a hyperbola, my B value helped me create my box. So square root of 7 is closer to 3, but less than closer to 2. So about right there, about right there, about right there, about right there. So now I've got my box. Okay, now I can draw my asymptotes, and y is going to equal, since the B values are horizontal or vertical, it's going to be plus or minus the B over A values x. So I'm going to use the blue I have, and I'm going to draw the asymptotes. I'm just going to do it really quickly. I'm not looking for perfection right now. I'm just trying to get it on the paper. Alright, now let's go ahead and just graph the hyperbola. So it traverses the x-axis. So that's, the x is going to be positive. So the base equation is going to look like this. X minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. So I have an a value, I have a b value, and I have h and a k. Remember the center was 3, 1, so that's h comma k. So here we go. So the equation is x minus 3 squared over a squared. My a value is 3, so a squared is 9, minus y minus k, which was 1, squared over b squared. My b value is square root of 7, so this would just be 7 equals 1. So my equation for this hyperbola is x minus 3 squared over 9 minus y minus 1 squared over 7 equals 1. Alright, so to the next problem. Write an equation of a hyperbola with vertices at 2, -1, 2, 7, and the foci at 2, 10, and 2, -4. So I got a vertices at 2, -1, 2, 7, and I have foci at 2, 10, and 2, -4. Okay. Alright, let's plot the vertices at 2, -1, and 2, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're the vertices. The foci are at 2, 10, and 2, -4. Okay, so they're a difference of 3 right there. I'm just going to make a note of that. From the foci to the vertex is 3. Okay, so let's find the center. The center is kind of a big deal. So the center is going to be, you add the x's of the vertices and divide it by 2, so it's going to be 2. You add those, so -1 plus 7 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. So the center is 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the center. My a value represents the distance from the center of the vertex. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my a value is 4. My c value, if that's 4, my c value represents from the center of the foci, so that's 4 plus 3, which would be 7. Okay, so let's try to find our b value. Remember, c squared in this case equals a squared plus b squared. So b squared equals c squared minus a squared. So b squared is going to equal 7 squared, which is 49, minus 4 squared, which is 16. So b squared is going to be 33. So b is going to be square root of 33. Okay, so let's talk about that b value real quick. Remember, that's going to help me grab my box. So we know the b value is going to be less than 6, bigger than 5. So from the vertex, we're going to count 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did up top. Now we're going to do 6, a little under 6 going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little bit less. A little bit less. All right. There's my box. Okay, this area was my A, and this distance was my B. Okay, so in this case, my asymptotes are going to be y equals plus or minus A over BX. Okay, so let's sketch that really quick. And again, I don't remember if it asked to graph it or not, but it's not too hard to do. So they're my asymptotes. We know it's going to go up and down. So there is my hyperbola. Now let's find an equation for it. So what axis is this running over? It's running over the y-axis, right? So it's going to be y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. So now let's just plug and chug. I have the center, so that's h comma k. I have my a squared and b squared and all that good stuff. So let's start. So y minus, my k value was 3. So y minus 3 squared. My a squared value was 4 squared, so 16. Minus x minus, my h value was 2 squared over b squared. Well, b squared was 33, and that equals 1. So there's my equation. Y minus 3 squared over 16 minus x minus 2 squared over 33 equals 1. Okay, so on to the next one. And again, study this and look through it until it makes sense. Okay, real-world connection. Some ships navigate using LORAN. And if you look over there, it stands for long-range navigation. All right, the ship's equipments calculate the difference between the arrival times of simultaneously broadcast radio signals. The difference in arrival times indicates how much closer the ship is to one's transmitter than the other. The navigator then locates the ship on a hyperbola shown in red. Okay, the process is repeated using a second pair of transmitters to locate the ship on the hyperbola shown in blue. All points on hyperbola 25800 as shown in diagram are 48 miles closer to one transmitter than the other. The transmitter located at the foci are 200 miles apart are located at 0, 0 and 200, 0. Find the equation for the hyperbola of 25800. Step 1, find C. All right, since the foci are 200 miles apart, 2C equals 200, our C value would be 100. So the center of the hyperbola is easily found at 100, 0. Find A by calculating the difference between the vertex at A plus 100, 0 and the two foci. Okay, well, the difference we said would be 48. So when you do the math, it ends up being 48 divided by 2A. So 48 divided by 2A is 24. So our A value is 24. So we know our A value, we know our C value. So find our B squared value. So you do the math. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Solve for B. And there you have your equation. Okay. X minus 100 squared over 24 squared minus Y squared over 9424. Okay. So let's look at the next equation. Given the equation, given the information in example 3, find the equation of a hyperbola with all points 56 miles closer to one transmitter than the other. Well, we know our C value is still 100. However, our A value, or I should say 2A value, equals 56. So our A value is going to equal 28. So now we got to find our B value. So if you remember, we could say B squared equals C squared minus A squared. Okay, well, 100 squared is just 10,000, and whatever 28 squared would be. So let's look. Get the calculator in the range for us. All right, so 28 squared, we're going to need that number anyway, 784. So let's look at the calculator. Let's go 100 squared minus 28 squared equals 9216. So B squared is going to equal 9216. All right, well, A goes with our X value, so it's going to be X minus 100 squared over A squared, which would be 784 minus Y squared over 9216 equals 1. Again, we found the center on the problem before, and we found out the center of this thing was 100, 0. So 100 is our H value and 0 is our K value. All right. Pretty straightforward on that one. Okay, let's go on to the next part. All right. This is where it gets a little tedious. Identifying translated conic sections. The equation ax squared plus bxy plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is a general equation for all conic sections where a and c are not both equal to 0. To determine whether a conic section is the equation represents, you have to get the equation in standard form by usually completing the square for the x and y values. So identify the translated conic section. Okay, you have the example in your notes, but let's write this out and let's do it ourselves. So I got 4x squared plus y squared minus 24x plus 6y plus 9 equals 0. Step 1, group the x's and y's and get the constants to one side. So I got 4x squared minus 24x plus y squared plus 6y. We're going to make that equal to negative 9. Okay, now we're going to group these things. Just like that. All right, is there anything on the x we can factor out? A 4. So it's going to be 4 times x squared minus 6x. We're going to leave that big space there. Plus y squared plus 6y. We're going to leave that space there equals negative 9. Okay, how do we complete the square? Well, if you remember x squared plus bx, to complete the square, you would take half of b and then square it and then add it to both sides of the equation. So, looking at x, what's our b value? For x, our b value is negative 6, so b over 2 is negative 3. So b over 2 squared is 9. So let's add 9 right here. Now we just can't add 9 to the right because I have a factor that I have to multiply it by. So I'm really adding 36 to the left side. So we got to add 36 to the right side. Okay, so I've completed that square. So it's going to look like this. 4 times x minus 3 squared. Now let's complete the y value. Well, it's positive 6. So half of 6 is positive 3. 3 squared is 9, so I need to add 9. There's no multiplier, there's nothing outside, so I can just add 9 to the left and the right, and we're good. And that's going to look like y plus 3 squared. And all that's going to equal is negative 9 plus 36 plus 9, which is 36. We got to get it in standard form, so divide everything by 36. So this is going to be x minus 3 squared over 9 plus y plus 3 squared over 36 equals to 1. All right. So now let's find the foci and then sketch the graph and find the center. All that fun stuff. So in this case, a squared minus b squared equals c squared. So 36 minus 9 equals c squared. So c squared equals 27. So what's the c value going to be? Square root of 27. So 3 root 3 equals our c value. Okay. What's the center of this thing? Well, the center is h comma k. Well, our h value is 3 and our k value is negative 3. So the center of the equation is 3, negative 3. All right, can we graph this? Absolutely. What's our major axis? It's the y-axis. So where would the foci be? They're going to be on the y-axis. Okay, but it's not 0. What's the x value? What's the h value? What's the center on? 3. So it's going to be 3 comma negative 3, because that's the center, plus or minus the c value, 3 square root of 3. Remember how before we just put a 0 and 0? Well, it's because our h and our k values were 0, 0. So that's our foci. So let's graph this thing. Let's just put down a graph. Okay. The center is at 3, negative 3. So let's use green. 3, negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's the center. All right. My a value is square root of 36, so 6. So go up 6 and down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is 3 comma 3. Go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's at 3, negative 9. My b value is the square root of 9. So it'd be 3. So we're going to go left 3, 1, 2, 3. that value is 6, negative 3. Go 3 the other way, 1, 2, 3. And that value is 0, negative 3. And there is our ellipse. So we found the foci, we found the center, we graphed it, and we found the equation. Good enough. All right, next one. Make sure you look at this and understand all the steps we took. Give you the snapshot of the whole thing. All right, next one. Only way to get good at these is do them. Okay, identify the conic section represented and then sketch the graph. So I have x squared plus y squared minus 12x plus 4y equals 8. So group the x's and group the y's. So I got x squared minus 12x, going to leave a little space, plus y squared plus 4y, going to leave a little space, equals 8. Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. My b value for x is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is 36. So I add 36 to the left, add 36 to the right. Okay, the y value, the b is 4, divide that by 2 is 2, square it. So we're going to add another 4. So now I've completed the square. So I've got x minus 6 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 48. Well, since my x and y values don't have any coefficients in front of them, this is a circle. The center of the circle is 6, negative 2, because remember x minus h and y minus k, and the radius is the square root of 48, which will factor out 4 square root of 3. And we know it's a circle. So the answer is C if you got the multiple choice. Okay, that concludes our conic sections. Okay, so we should be able to identify and translate conic sections, and we should be able to graph them fairly easily. Okay, good job.